Hello and welcome to the DSP Project. I'm your host Rupert Brown, and this week I want to share with you an actual piece, a finished piece that we recently completed. I say we, my main musical outlet is a group called Kilotone, and it's myself and another amazing musician, a guy called Jezza, who actually lives on the other side of the world, but I'm hoping you guys will get to meet him eventually. Anyway, so we've finished this remix. It's of a track called Satellites. The original was done by quite a well-known Kiwi D&B outfit called Cern. And I don't want this is not going to be a video about how to remix per se. I just want to walk you through the live set and show you how we've achieved a few things. There's a few ideas in there that hopefully you'll find interesting. So let's check it out. So here we have the remix in its entirety. As you can see, there's quite a lot going on in this live set. To quickly talk about how we like to work. Generally speaking, with a remix, you'll get a bunch of tracks and they'll be the full length of the song. So even if you've got just a gong at the end of the song, let's say, the file for the gong will still be 3, let's say 7 minutes long, whatever the track is of silence before the gong at the end. The reason for this being, it makes it easy to line everything up if they're all the same length, so you can throw them all into your DAW and all the parts and timing will line up. So we'll take all those parts, we'll throw them in, we'll then start cutting out parts we don't like, adding bits in, moving stuff around, and building like a palette of sounds that we want to build the remix out of. And then once we've got that palette, we'll actually basically go Command A and delete the entire sequence and start again. It's a really liberating thing to do, and if you start trying to just cut away at the original track, you will be influenced by the original sequence. Whereas I think if you're making a remix, you should try and break away from that a little bit at least. I also find this I'll do this when not even just for a remix, but for making a track myself. I'll start building stuff up, and the reason why I do it for my own tunes is because I find that you will sequence sounds depending on the order in which you find them. So you'll find that samples that you might get a hold of at the beginning of making a track will run through the whole thing, and then stuff that you find at the very end, some of the very final sounds that you might take, you'll only sprinkle through the track or maybe have at the end. Well, this is for me anyway, for my own personal experience, I found it a lot more productive to once I've got all the sounds I like, just delete the whole sequence and then kind of restructure the thing again. So anyway, let's take a quick look at have a listen to the beginning of it. Okay, one interesting thing that we've got going on here is you can see two minds at work. I've created this drum part at the start, and I've used a drum rack to do it. So I've only taken 3 parts: a kick, a snare, and a shuffle, and they all come from the original stem. This is for the original remix stem. I've just used simpler, and I've selected just a kick, a snare, and the shuffle sound. Now, the reason why I like using a drum rack is because it keeps it all very neat. It makes it nice to sequence here. I can go kick, snare, shuffle, and just place it all in exactly where I want it to go. And it only takes up one channel, and it's all neat and tidy. Now, what Jez has done is he's actually taken he's pasted the original sample into the set, and then cut out a kick and a snare and whatever parts, and then manually cut and paste them to where he wants them, and then just copy them and duplicated them. Now, there are some advantages to doing this method as well. I should say there's definitely no right or wrong here. With the method that Jez has used here, you can sidechain. So you can sidechain the kick, because in your any other tool that uses sidechaining, you get to choose the channel and you can select the kick channel. Whereas if you want to sidechain the kick that I've got here, then you're out of luck, because all of these parts are summed inside of that one channel, inside of this drum rack channel, and so you can't select just the kick to sidechain off of. one thing I don't know whether I mentioned, an advantage of doing it the drum rack way is if you want to change a sample, it's very easy. If you want to replace it with a new kick sample, I can just drag in a new kick and it will replace all the kicks through the tune. Whereas if you're cutting up the wave manually, like at the top here, then that's going to be more difficult. And another reason why I know Jezza definitely prefers using this wave cutting method is because you actually get to see the waveforms themselves and how they interact. Now, with the drum rack here, we just get little blocks, whereas here, obviously, you can see you can actually see what they look like. And that might not be so important in something like this, like in this part here. But if you take something like the mid parts here, so this was I think one original stem, and we've sort of cut parts out. These parts here. So we could have put all these parts into a drum rack as well, and again that would have looked a lot neater maybe in the project. But you really, with something like this, you really need to see where the sounds are loudest, where they're quietest, and you can really visualize how these different parts are going to interact with each other, which is something you can't do with the drum rack. So, like I say, there is no right way and no wrong way, but that's kind of just an interesting two different ways of working inside of Live. Okay, so let's talk about the bass line. So this is a new bass line that we've put in. This is not one of the original stems, so I'll just solo it first up. And it is used creating Massive, which is a fantastic virtual instrument. Now let's walk through the effects chain here. So you can see we've got a few parts here. And what's quite cool in Live 8 that you couldn't do in Live 7 is in Live 7, I believe, if you kick out the options, the parameters here, it would show you a whopping great list of everything inside the VST. Whereas with Live 8 now, you can actually choose what it shows you. So all you have to do is click Configure and then wiggle the knob of something you want to control, let's say this, and you would have noticed that this popped up. So we've now got a control for this parameter inside of Live. The advantage to this is we can now go and draw in, so you can see here on a Massive we've got some different, all different patterns drawn in for these different parts, which is really nice, because what happens is there's different peaks and lulls with the filters and different parts. It means that you get sort of this really interesting, constantly evolving texture as they interact with as the different filters interact with each other in different parts. So moving through, we've got a utility next. And basically all this is used for is monoing the channel. So it's set at 100% here. So just to show you, all we do is we take that and drag that width down to 0. So this is the stereo width, and it turns the stereo signal into a mono signal. You won't hear the difference because to keep the size of this video down to help all you guys streaming, the audio is for this show is summed down into mono, so it's not going to sound any different, but that's the purpose of that. Next up we have KK Warm Dist. It's a free distortion plugin, and it probably has one of the most interesting looking user interfaces I've seen ever on anything. Not bad. You don't want to push it too far, and it only works for certain things, but quite nice. It definitely has a use in certain places, just to add a bit of distortion to the sound. Okay, so next we have an optical compressor from the T-Rex mastering suite. I am a big fan of a lot of the T-Rex stuff, and yeah, this is just a nice clean, doesn't really add much color, it's just a nice clean compressor which does what it says on the tin.